What's up, movie lovers? I'm Mike, and this is Gotta Love Them Movies. If I can find the button, it's Gotta Love Them Movies. Oh, you guys, welcome back to another edition of Gotta Love Them Movies, your daily dose of movie news. I'm your host, Mr. Mike Brown. I'm here all the time. And you guys, today's a little bit of a special day, and I will tell you why it's a special day. Today, not only is today Friday the 13th, not only is today Friday the 13th, 2020, like the 2020 edition of Friday the 13th, you guys, today, Friday the 13th, 2020, just so happens to be my birthday. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 38 years ago today, I was brought into this world. I was a bouncing baby boy. I know that because the doctors dropped me on the floor and I just bounced right back up into their arms. It was a beautiful thing. And here to help me celebrate on this, the day of my birth, very good friend of mine. I have known this man for years and years and years. Our connections go way back. He actually helped get me a start doing solo improv back in the solo improv days. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for a very good friend of mine, Mr. Chris Booth. Woo, 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 woo.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mike Brown. Happy birthday to you.
Aw, Chris.
Hey, buddy.
That's so sweet of you. Thank you. So, Chris,
You're welcome.
welcome to the show. This is your first time on the show.
Thank you.
As you know, we just sit around and chit-chat.
I'm nervous.
You should be. You know, we just sit around and chit-chat.
Very Yoda. Very Yoda of you.
Well, I figured I'm wearing a Star Wars hat. You're wearing a Star Wars hat. We kind of had to let's keep all of our references Star Wars based today. Let's try. It may not happen that way, but if we can, let's try. You know, do or do not.
All right.
There is no try. Chris.
Sounds good to me, you scruffy-looking nerd herder.
Oh, you almost lost your credibility there. Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you qualified to talk movies, and tell us a little bit about your professional life there.
Well, I'm an actor and a writer and a comedian here in New York. In terms of my nerd credibility, I am a former comic book illustrator. I still do some illustration, mostly on my Instagram.
And it's beautiful, by the way.
And I used to manage. Oh, thank you. And I used to manage a comic book store in college. I was living the college dream, managing a comic book store. And so that's my nerd credibility. Or credentials, rather. And like I said, I'm a writer and a comedian. I do mostly sketch comedy and character work. It's funny, I completely blanked on the fact that it's Friday the 13th because I just did a Halloween show. Where I played Jason Voorhees, but now as a former child star. And so, that was a lot of fun. And that's me.
Completely
that's what I do.
Beautiful. Completely beautiful, sir. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for spending an hour plus with us today and just chat about all that nerd stuff that we love to talk about. Some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is not complete nerd stuff. You'll get the gist of it once we get into it. But before we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already done so, head on over to youtube.com. Type in Gotta Love Them Movies. When you do, you'll see a little red square in the top right-hand corner that says subscribe. Go ahead and click on that button. What clicking on that button is it helps us to widen our subscriber base. But Mike, you say we're watching this on Facebook Live. Why do I have to go to YouTube? Well, thank you, Pierre. That was a great question. Thanks for asking that. The reason we need subscribers is with more subscribers, we get more watch content. The more watch content we get, I actually get to earn money and I get to make the show my full-time job. So I really appreciate your support just clicking that subscribe button. And of course, as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers, the show will move from Facebook to YouTube. So just something to be aware of on the horizon. All right, guys, with all that down and out of the way, now it's time to take a little bit of movie news.
What?
All right, you guys, let's jump in and take a little bit of movie news. And our first bit of movie news is coming to us from The Hollywood Reporter. And this is actually, it looks like it's Star Wars related. It's not directly Star Wars related. This is more about Disney Plus. It was just reported that Disney Plus, they came out publicly. One of the things that a lot of these streaming services do is they reserve all of their numbers. They don't like to tell all of their secrets. They don't like to tell all their tales outside of school, you know? And Disney has actually started being very transparent with the public and its audience. And they have become very open about how many subscribers they have for Disney Plus. That number, just a little over 73 million. Chris, that's a lot of subscribers. I did the math at about $7 a pop, $7 per subscription a month. That's a little over $500 million a month. That's like $500,000 every month. $500 million every month that they're getting in. Now I understand Disney's bleeding a lot of money right now. You know, there was a report that their parks, just their parks, not the movie side and everything else, they're losing about $9 billion annually just from having to limit capacity in their parks and shut down many other parks that they have. So that's $9 billion that the Disney company is not taking in. They're getting about $500 million every month, but they still have to keep the lights on. What do these numbers mean, Chris? Like, are these good numbers for Disney? Are these bad numbers for Disney? I mean, I look at this and it's easy to look at it and say, oh, well, Disney's getting half a $500 million in revenue every single month. But let's also consider, let's take a step back. Disney is a mammoth company. They're huge. They have so many employees to pay. They have a lot of retail space to account for. They have land that they own that they need to pay taxes on, if not annually, monthly. They have a lot of overhead. They're one of those businesses that may have more overhead than most other companies. Is $500 million coming in every month enough to keep Disney in the black? Or do you think there's a possibility they still might go into the red? What do you see here?
Well, I'll take $500 million any day of the week. You can. It doesn't even have to be monthly. You just give it to me.
What's your Venmo? Just post your Venmo.
Good. Yeah, I will do that now. Yeah, it's interesting because if you do the math, then that's saying that they're bringing in about $6 billion a year, and if they're losing $9 billion a year, then you got a $3 billion deficit. So obviously they're operating in deficit. But a company like Disney's been around for so long that they're going to be able to operate in some sort of deficit for a little while, but not indefinitely. Unfortunately, when you get to a company that's this big and is having this much financial difficulty, the same financial difficulty that a lot of us are having right now, artistically, they're probably going to not take as many chances. And that's probably going to lead to, on some level, artistic stagnation. And eventually those subscribers will start to go away. So they're on some level, and listen, I'm not one of these people with a YouTube channel that it just like is always poo-pooing what's in popular culture. Yeah. However, without new artistic infusion, eventually those subscribers will start to go away. There's only so many times you can watch The Fox and the Hound.
What, you don't just sit around and watch A Fox and the Hound on repeat? I mean, I will give it to Disney. They have an incredible library.
Well, when I want to cry,
cry. That's what Toy Story is for. And Up.
You cry at Toy Story. a lighthearted
Have
film
you
about
not seen
friendship.
Toy Story 3, the most emotional journey of all the Toy Story movies?
I actually watched Toy Story 3 at the
Oh,
gym, and I
man.
started crying at the end. And most people just saw a fat man sweating and crying at the gym, so they just figured that I was
As it should be.
exerting myself.
That's how we mask our tears, Chris. But yeah, no, I mean, Disney has an incredible library behind them. Like, just look on Disney Plus and just scroll through everything that they have. Everything from Marvel to Star Wars, and their original stuff, and Pixar, and now they have they're starting to introduce some of the more family friendly 20th Century Fox properties, and like so a lot of the X-Men movies are on there now. I believe Fant Four Stick, which is a complete pile of garbage. But yeah, I mean, they've got an incredible catalog. But as you say, to your point,
Mike, this is a family-friendly show. Do not bring up fan Four
my
Stick.
apologies.
They're children
Don't
watching.
watch
They're
that movie.
children watching.
It's terrible. It's, you know what? I will actually give it this. The first half of Fant Four Stick, of course, we're talking about Fantastic Four, the remake, one of the many remakes. The first half of that movie, not entirely terrible. It was decent. So whole second half was, oh.
I would say the first 10
All right.
first 10 minutes
All right.
were pretty good, and then it was diminishing returns.
That's a good
from
way
there.
to put it. But to your point, Chris, without a huge influx of new content coming out on Disney Plus, like we have Mandalorian season 1, which came out a year ago. And then the next big thing that they had was Hamilton, which came out this past summer. Now we have Mandalorian season 2. They've just said it yesterday. They announced a release date for WandaVision, which is in January. We know we're getting Falcon and Winter Soldier. We know we're getting Loki. At some point in the future, maybe not next year, but maybe the year after, we're going to get She-Hulk. We're going to get Hawkeye. We're going to get Ms. Marvel and Moon Knight. Like, there are shows that are coming out specifically designed for Disney Plus, not to mention a few other Star Wars shows. Do you think that's too little too late? Do you think that's sustainable? Do you think that they're on track? Do you think they're doing okay? Where do you think in terms of getting new subscribers?
Well, you also left out that at the beginning of the summer they announced, or I'm sorry, at the end of the summer going into the fall, they announced that they were didn't they announce that they are no longer going to do theatrical releases? Everything's going to be released through streaming, or they're leaning in that direction. I mean, I think look, Netflix has made it work for a long time, and it'll be interesting. I'm more concerned with like what's going to happen with Netflix over Disney. Disney has such a large catalog, and whether or not Disney Plus lasts a long time, they have enough of a catalog of an organization to mete out these films. And if I'm not mistaken, and I might be mistaken on this, but I also think they still have a stake in Hulu as well. So they have two streaming services that they're running, right now. So I could see a world where in the next maybe 3 or 4 years, Hulu is absorbed by Disney Plus. I can see that as happening. Or I could see if Disney wanted to do a rebrand, they could absorb Disney Plus into Hulu and make it something that you could get through Hulu. But it's really difficult to tell right now because of COVID has thrown everything out the window. Any preconceived notion that you've had about how this industry works and who's going to survive this industry is no longer existent.
You bring up sorry, my brain just went blank there. You bring up Netflix, and they have almost double, actually more than double. I think it's closer to 169 million subscribers. I literally just looked it up while you're speaking. So, I mean, with double the amount of subscribers that they have, over double, they are also producing so much content. And this is what I've been saying about Netflix for ages. They have so much original content that they're putting out there. But we kind of don't know about it. They're terrible at advertising their new content. Stranger Things we know about, like whenever the new season of House of Cards would come out, we knew about that. Glow we kind of know about. Well, I mean, that just got canceled, but like a lot of their stuff, they put out so much stuff. So it just makes me wonder, like, is Netflix just like leaving this kind of stuff on the table? Whereas, you look at a company like Disney, they have so few new properties coming out. You know about them.
Right. Well, the other thing is Disney, they gave up on being content creators and generators over a decade ago. I mean, I think was it like Wreck-It Ralph was like the last real in-house Disney production. Everything else is produced through a subsidiary of Disney. On some level, Disney is more like in terms of their business model, they're more akin to like a Walmart than they are to a Netflix, because Netflix is actually creating original new content. And they're what's interesting about Netflix's model is because Netflix's model is based all off of algorithms. So for instance, House of Cards, the only reason House of Cards was sort of created in the way that it was created was because at the time they realized that West Wing was their most watched show, and that Kevin Spacey movies were their most watched movies on their streaming service. And so they said, well, what can we do to bring those two things together in an original series? And that's kind of what dictates their creation of series, is like, yeah, they bring in interesting voices and interesting creators, but they're also sort of like taking a very granular look at their algorithm and who's watching what. Whereas Disney is a little bit on the back end of things. They're on some level, it's like, I'm going to use a really bad analogy here, and I'm sure people in the comments section will get me on this. But like in a lot of ways, Netflix is like a surfer, and they're waiting to see when the next wave is going to start way out. And Disney is more akin to a bodyboarder or a boogie boarder, where they're just waiting for the wave to crest. And you've seen it time and Disney's quite good at this. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to their original content, I think the last huge hit that they had in terms of just like brand new original content was probably back when you and I were in like high school, and they were releasing, the animated films what is it? Aladdin came out when I was in high school, and Hunchback of Notre Dame. That was sort of the last vestige of Disney doing original content that
purely
was
their own,
in-house. And even those, right? But even those aren't really original stories. They're co-opting stories that everyone knows. So yeah, it'll be interesting because Disney has such an odd business model and the way in which they produce. But also, if Disney has taught us anything, is that they're very good at reinvention.
That's true.
And they're very good.
They need to hit their hard knocks first. They always have to hit their hard knocks first before they learn and then come up out of it. So I just wonder, like, what are their hard knocks going to be going forward, because there was that
I think the implosion. Well, I was going to say the implosion of superhero films. That's going to happen. It's probably already starting to happen. And I mean, you saw them implode on Star Wars on some level in terms of theatrical releases. Even though the films themselves were financially successful, just the fan response was split.
I still have my own feelings about that with Kathleen Kennedy. She's a wonderful executive producer. She would not have earned as many Oscars as she has if she wasn't completely brilliant at her job. But being a studio head, I don't think exactly is in her wheelhouse. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think of Disney coming out publicly and saying that they now have 73 million subscribers? Do you think that that's enough to help them carry us through this dry spell, this COVID dry spell? Or do you think that they're going to need a little bit of help? What do you think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, moving on to our next bit of news today. This comes to us from Variety. And this is not new news. However, there was a trailer recently dropped by HBO Max. I think it was this morning, today. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion. We kind of knew it was happening for a little while. Will Smith tweeted this photo out, a few months ago, but now we have our actual first look, our first trailer, our first taste at what the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion is actually going to be like. And you guys, I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to this. One of the most important things to me, I misspoke. Not the most important thing, but one of the things that I'm looking forward to most, I love having these roundtables where people sit and discuss and talk in depth and very candidly. I think that candidly, that is a thing that we don't get a lot of, or we don't get much of in the Hollywood industry or business. A lot of Hugh Jackman was very famously kind of quoted and, paraphrased when speaking of the first Wolverine standalone film. I think it was X-Men Origins Wolverine. We all know that movie is a heaping pile of garbage. And to hear an actor kind of validate our feelings, or somebody who worked on the film to validate our feelings a little bit, is so refreshing. But it so rarely happens. So in this trailer for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they're not doing a reunion show where they're, reprising their roles as, the characters from the show. It's a whole group of them getting together to talk about their experiences working on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. What's the backstory? How did it start? Will Smith wasn't an actor, and James Avery, who played his uncle in the show, helped and coached him along to become a decent actor and the great actor that we now know today. This is the type of reunion that I love to see. It's not, like I said, they're not reprising their roles. It's not going to be this cheesy, campy, hey, now it's 20, 30 years later, and here we are coming back for an event of some sorts. I love this idea. I think this is really going to work. It has a huge fan base, and I think HBO Max is really going to benefit from this. Chris, have you seen the trailer? And what do you think of this idea of the cast of Fresh Prince coming back to do a reunion show?
I think it's great. I mean, it'll be great to see everyone and see them chat. I agree with you. I'd prefer to see actors sit around and talk as opposed to trying to recapture something that may have been lost. I think the closest show that got to doing the perfect reunion was Seinfeld on Curb Your Enthusiasm, because they were able to sort of break down what that would look like. And yet you still got to see Seinfeld, which was fun. So yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. Fresh Prince was a really fun show when it was out originally. I think that Will Smith is a very inspirational figure in terms as a human being and an actor, and he's a great reminder to other actors not to rest on their laurels. I think a lot about, there's a great Will Smith story about when he first got Fresh Prince. I think it was like maybe within the first season or so, one of the actors, I don't remember which actor, but one of the actors on the show came to him and they said, look, you've got a choice, and that choice is you can either be here on set, and this is this thing that you're doing, and you're this like young hip hop artist. And at the time, Hollywood was recruiting a lot from the hip hop community. And this will be the only thing you ever do. And maybe the show will be canceled, and maybe it won't. Or you can take this opportunity, really buckle down, study, become a better actor, and make something of yourself. And I remember, I want to say after the second year or so, I remember watching an interview with him where the interviewer asked, well, what goals do you have? And he said, I want to open the #1 movie in the United States. It's never been done by a black man, and I want to do that. And I remember I think the interviewer actually kind of chuckled and went, oh, okay, because he was just a TV star, and he was essentially like maybe, I think, considered kind of a one-hit wonder in terms of a hip-hop artist, because I don't think Summertime had come out yet. And so they sort of chuckled at him, and he kept at it, and he kept studying, and he eventually not opened one, but I think he had the top movie 3 years in a row on the 4th of July in the late 90s. Yeah. So he's a very inspirational figure.
I'm always constantly in awe of Will Smith and his hustle. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. One of Will Smith's cousins, just so happens to be a friend of mine, and he was commenting on the show in the live comments. constantly is a source of inspiration to me. I mean, he hasn't always done the best movies. I mean, what was the Planet whatever that Earth After Earth? Yeah.
After Earth.
Complete
Yeah.
ball of garbage.
After Earth.
I mean, he sometimes he doesn't do the best films, but also sometimes he does. What was it? Happiness, Pursuit of Happiness. My goodness, what an inspirational story to be portrayed. Even just his portrayal of Ali, Muhammad Ali, won him Best Actor. And I don't know, he's one of those guys, and especially like one of the things that's going around in all the trades, or it has been going around in the trades. It's older news at this point, but the rough and tumble relationship between he and his wife, and how there was a little bit of infidelity, and how they came together and worked to work through this problem, like so many other people would have, being put in that kind of a situation or scenario. All right, bye. See ya. I'm not going to deal with this. You're done. I'm done with you. But it really, I think, like, it's a testament to their marriage, to their relationship, to their family, and, to everyone around them. These are the kind of people, specifically speaking about Will Smith, but he is the kind of person that goes the extra mile. He knows what is at stake. He knows what his own value is. He knows what his wife's value is, his fans and everything. And he, to your point, Chris, he puts in that extra effort. That is a ludicrous concept. Let's rewind back to 1992. Let's turn the clocks back a little bit. What a ludicrous thought and idea. I think what would be today's equivalent? Maybe someone who's a mediocre YouTube star that kind of like, oh, we're gonna put you on, we're gonna make a silly little sitcom about you and your situation, and to say, I want to be like the number one best actor, highest grossing film of the year, kind of a thing. Like, that is a ridiculous ask. That's a ridiculous ask.
And if you think about the show itself, the show was basically just a retelling of the Beverly Hillbillies.
I never thought of it like that, but yeah.
It's the exact same concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same concept. And so
anyway, like I'm always.
I just blew your mind.
Well, because I just finished watching the TV show Schitt's Creek, and somebody commented that Schitt's Creek is basically just the Beverly Hillbillies in reverse. It's just backwards. And it was kind of like, again, it just blew my mind. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what that show is. But anyway, guys, question for you is, are you looking forward to the new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion on HBO Max? Is it the kind of thing that you were expecting? I will admit, it was not the kind of thing that I was expecting, but it's the kind of thing that I'm excited for. Are you excited for it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, we have 2 bits of movie news today left to go. Bit of movie news number 3. This article comes from Deadline, and this is in all the major trades right now. As we've known for a while, Wonder Woman 1984 is in a very precarious situation. A very precarious situation, you guys. It is so much of an understatement to say that DC Films and Warner Brothers is in a very precarious situation. And their timetable to make a decision as to what to do with Wonder Woman 84 is it's a little past due. They should have known what they were going to do with Wonder Woman 84 a while ago. But as is always the case with COVID, every single day that we move forward in a COVID world, the impossible now becomes possible, and also the reverse. The possible now becomes impossible. The thinkable becomes unthinkable, and the unthinkable now becomes thinkable. And what do we mean by that? So Wonder Woman 84, as you should, Chris, as you should.
I'm trying to figure out what word math problem you just did.
Just figure one of them out and then just invert it. That's all it is. Don't spend your time with all of them.
Sounds good.
But
Sorry
as
to
is the
interrupt.
case, so Wonder Woman 84 has been the filmmakers and the studio has been very clear in saying this is going to be a Christmas Day release. Now, the Christmas Day release was its, I believe, fourth push or third push. It's one of the two. This is not its first theatrical release date. It was supposed to come out months ago, and then they pushed it back to October, and then they pushed it out back again to Christmas Day, thinking, all right, Christmas Day, this is going to happen. It's going to be, this is what it's going to be. And they've been like sticking their heels in the sand and saying, we are committed to putting out Wonder Woman 84 in theaters on Christmas Day. But then last month, Cineworld in Europe, who is the parent company of Regal, announced we're shutting all of our theaters down around the world. Every single Regal theater being shut down until COVID is no longer a problem. AMC theaters, they're in a financial bind. They're over $5 billion in debt. It was a calculated risk. It was a smart risk that they took, but nobody counted on COVID becoming a thing, and now here we are. So AMC theaters, in every market that they're allowed to be open, they're open because they need the business. But then, a lot of other smaller, Cinemark, same thing. Like they need the business. So with an unpredictable amount of movie theaters to be open on Christmas Day, and not only that, to have cases of coronavirus, especially in the United States. I mean, I know they're going up around the world, but in the United States, we've had the highest numbers that we've ever had since it started. Period. The highest numbers of cases in the United States is currently right now, and it's on the rise. Which begs the question, with the more cases of COVID going up, are more businesses going to shut down? And if they do, and it's not just about businesses shutting down, it's about people leaving their homes. Are people finally going to start wising up a little bit and saying, okay, it is really bad right now, you guys, let's hold back. Let's stay indoors and do all of that. Are people going to do what they need to do? And if they do, and Wonder Woman 84 comes out in theaters, nobody's going to go see it. Nobody's going to go see it. So right now, Warner Brothers is in a very precarious situation because if they wanted to move, if they're going to keep the Christmas Day release date, they should have started advertising for this a month ago. Their window for advertising is shortening so quickly and so much that even if they do hold on to the December 25th release date, not a lot of people are going to know about it. Very little people are going to know about it. Chris, this is a complicated situation, to put it mildly. Let's just say if Walter Hamada, the president of DC Films, if he called you up tomorrow, if he calls you up today and says, Chris, I'm in a bind, I need some advice, what do we do? What kind of advice would you give Walter Hamada?
Abandon ship? That's sort of like asking, what would you do if the captain of the Titanic called you up 2 hours into the sinking asking you your advice? I've never seen a company, and I'm a lifelong DC fan, but I quite literally have never seen something like how this company has imploded in upon itself. It's mind-boggling.
Are you referring to DC or are you referring
to Warner
Brothers?
I'm referring to DC specifically. Warner Brothers has mismanaged DC films for many, many years. And once again, it comes back to this like weird push and pull of being an industry leader and then trying to follow trends. DC Films, their biggest issue is that they will essentially run something into the ground, i.e. the original run of Batman films, to a point where the property is no longer really a viable property. And then they gave it to Christopher Nolan, knowing that the property itself was, not very good. And they said, do with it what you will, because we obviously don't know what to do with it. And then he created the Dark Knight trilogy. And instead of taking that same idea of like, well, let's just take our sort of creative foot out of our creative mouth and give it to give the properties to people who have something interesting to say with them, they just said, well, let's recreate the success of the Dark Knight trilogy with Superman. And we gave it to Scott Snyder. And on paper, all this stuff seems like it would make sense. But the execution...
not the comic book writer.
Yeah, Zack Snyder. Not the comic book writer. He probably would have been better. Yeah, and they just constantly over and over again, they're chasing the dragon that is Marvel, and they're not running their own race. And if you look at anything, if you look at the presidential race, if you look at marketing trends, if you look at anything around the world, when a company or an individual stops running their own race and they start tracing the trends, the return becomes less and less each time because audiences get tired of it. They're exhausted by it. So what would I tell them to do? I would tell them to release the movie on HBO Max. I would tell them to kind of cool it with superhero films for a while, quite honestly, and to focus on the original properties themselves and to figure out how they're going to make these properties viable in the 21st century, as opposed to remembering what the quote glory days of the comic book industry were, or what the glory days of superhero films were, and try something new. For God's sake,
there's a few things that you said that I want to break down. First and foremost, your advice specifically about Wonder Woman 84 is release it on HBO Max. Wonder Woman 84, everybody knows, is a potential billion-dollar film. Personally, I don't think, even in a non-COVID world, I don't think it would reach $1 billion. Maybe very similar to what its predecessor did, was around 900 million, 800 million. I think that's kind of more the ballpark where it's going. That even still, that's a good amount of money that they have potential to make. You're not going to get anywhere near as much money coming in if you were to release it on HBO Max. So that's point number one.
Maybe.
I mean, like, should they just push it back? Do you think because one of the dates they're looking at is June 21st of next year. If they push it back to June 21st, they have a better shot.
Maybe. But I mean, you have to look at it this way. So far, Broadway has pushed back till, in theory, the beginning of June, though I'm hearing internally it's probably going to be pushed back again till opening in the fall. And some people are saying that Broadway won't even be back to 2022. So ultimately you have to ask yourself, you have look, there's a reason why I don't run a studio. I'm a moron, but
you and me both.
You have this like worldwide pandemic that no one can predict. No one really knows what's going to happen. Especially when and if we get a vaccine, which they keep saying we're going to get soon, and all the nitwits who are not going to take the vaccine. It's funny, earlier you said, will this be the moment where people, start taking responsibility, putting on their masks? And the answer is no. No, of course it's not going to be. No. The answer is no. That's not going to happen. People are selfish and they're idiots.
In general. Yeah.
People in general. Well, no, they literally did like experiments where they said that like one person is sort of smart, 2 or 3 people together are smarter than one person, 5 people are dumber than 3 people, and 1,000 people are dumber than 5 people. So it's like the experiment was like the more people you add, the lower the IQ of the mass becomes.
I believe, yeah. I'm not familiar with this concept, but I totally buy into it.
Individual. The experiment was, if I'm not mistaken, I think the experiment is that they basically got a group of people together to guess the weight of an elephant. And like one person, like I think they said like 3 people came the closest to guessing it. And the more people they added to the group past 3, the further away they got from the weight of the elephant. That's my memory of that experiment. I could be wrong, but yes, maybe they push it back, right? Maybe they push it back. But you also have to understand that what they're also running against is not just the COVID clock. They've got this Schneider cut of Justice
Yep.
League. They've got Flashpoint film they're wanting to make. They've got Snyder is now claiming he's got all these extra movies he wants to make. And it's like, guy, calm down. You just got invited back to the dance. No one
Okay,
wants to
so
see you
this
start
brings up
breakdancing.
an interesting question,
we just-
something that I wanted to ask you earlier. One of your previous points is that you said DC should just kind of stop making comic book films, stop making superhero films, and refocus for the moment until you kind of get your collective stuff together, right? I maybe.
Maybe.
I'm kind of thinking like, because after Walter Hamada took over the studio, he did a huge pivot. Like the Snyderverse was no longer a priority. They had to finish Justice League because they were already in production of it, and that was a huge hot mess. But then truly under Walter Hamada's umbrella, we have Aquaman, we got Shazam. We're getting the Suicide Squad, which looks really cool. We obviously have Wonder Woman 84. We have a number of future upcoming films in the we got Birds of Prey. Some people loved it, I loved it, some people hated it, and both are valid. But I feel like they are starting to pivot a little bit and create the Joker movie, the independent standalone Joker film, which I thought was genius. Is it smarter for them to keep on this idea of doing standalone films that don't necessarily tie into each other, just for the sake of creating a cinematic universe like what Marvel has done? Or should they just stop altogether? Like you took us down this journey. Let's finish it.
It's a good question. I will say that I think that the reason I put the caveat as maybe on is that I do think Joker, with all of its flaws, was a very interesting film, and it was interesting to see someone take comic book material and deal with it that way in the language of film. I just don't think that DC needs to be Marvel, is what I'm ultimately trying to say. The idea of a cinematic universe, from a business model point of view, the reason you create it is so that then you can introduce lesser known properties who are bolstered by these really well-known properties. And Marvel Films was very good at that. I remember when the first Iron Man movie came out, you probably couldn't pay someone to read an Iron Man comic book.
Iron Man was a joke. Nobody enjoyed it. Same thing with Captain America. Nobody liked those characters.
Yeah, they were not good properties on some level, and I'm using good in quotes. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting what's going to happen. It feels like that the Snyderverse Justice League world is going to end up being on HBO Max. That was the reason behind saying just put Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max. But I actually think when you talked about its release date, and I might be crazy, but I think it was originally supposed to be released, if not before Marvel's Captain Marvel, but just after. I think that was it was originally supposed to be released around Wonder Woman 84? And then production pushed it back because they were having production issues. But that was my memory, is that it was supposed to be released before, either around or before the Captain Marvel film. Because they were, pleasantly surprised at how well the first Wonder Woman film did. I think if you can make a $1 billion Aquaman film, you can make a $1 billion Wonder Woman film. She's a far more interesting and dynamic character, and the Aquaman movie is just
it's Fast and the Furious. It's Fast and the Furious in the comic book universe. That's all it is.
Sure. I don't even know if I would call it.
Well, I said that it was directed by Justin Lin. Justin Lin doing the vast majority of the Fast and Furious movies. High budget, high octane, just silly, over the top. It's a ridiculous movie. It's fun, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like watching a Looney Tunes cartoon with no plot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There it is. Anyway, guys, so big question for you is the possibility of Wonder Woman 1984 staying on Christmas Day. I mean, Warner Brothers still hasn't made an official declaration. As the article points out, they are hoping to make a decision either by today, later today, or by Monday. Most likely on Monday. Give them the weekend to try and a little bit more time to figure things out. What do you think they should do? Should they release it in theaters on Christmas? Should they delay it? Should they take the Chris Booth approach and just release it on HBO Max and, cut their losses and just be okay with the outcome? What do you think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, we have one last bit of movie news, and technically this isn't movie news. This is more, this is a little bit more lighthearted and fun and positive energy, and, when I read this article, there was no way that I couldn't talk about this today. You guys, Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter got together on the interwebs today. They released a really short video. I think it's like a minute long. It's not very long, to celebrate World Kindness Day. If anybody who is currently watching, if you've been watching the show with any amount of regularity, you know that I like to end every show by telling people to be kind to each other, perform acts of kindness for each other. If you find yourself in a position where you can perform an act of kindness, take that opportunity. Please speak kind words to each other. Well, apparently today is World Kindness Day, and today also happens to be my birthday. So this is news to me that November 13th, I know, right? What? Yeah, so today being November 13th, World Kindness Day, doubling as my birthday, and again, I always end every show by a plea of telling people to be kind to each other, but I also use a Bill and Ted quote in "Be excellent to each other." That's how I end every show, be excellent to each other. Chris, this is just warm, kind-hearted nature, just very uplifting, very positive news. Have you heard of World Kindness Day? This is news to me. I'd never heard of it before. And what is an inspirative figure, or I guess dual figures like Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, as Bill and Ted? How has their positivity infused kindness, and what can we maybe expect from the public, hopefully, fingers crossed?
Well, one, I was not aware that it was Kindness Day. I'm glad to hear it. But I agree with you. Our world has been rocked to the core, and one of the things that I was hoping would be an outcome of COVID was this putting away of swords and shields, and breaking down of these false barriers that we put up, and an acknowledgement of our shared humanity and the existential crisis that we were going through. And of course, dumb people ruined that. And but even I myself have to remind myself to be kind to dumb people, because everyone can be a moron in their own story at any given point. I know I can. But I do think it's important to show kindness and more importantly, compassion for people, because, I will say, not to get super political, but one of the things that I was inspired by recently was in Biden's speech after the election was called for him. He said that we have to bring the temperature down. And I think that that's very true. And I, for one, Mike, you and I know each other personally. You've seen me go after people in political
Well, you and
arguments.
me both. You and me both.
Yeah. And so I take that personally. I have to take the temperature down some, and just remember that, a lot of people, where they're coming from, when they're coming from a place of anger or frustration, or a place of, if you want to get deep into it, like racism or misogyny, they're coming from a place of fear, and they're coming from a place of non-understanding. I think a lot about, you may have to take the reins here for a second because there's something I need to look up because my brain has
Yeah, you
quit
you
on
go
me.
ahead and you look up
So
what
just
you need to look up. But something that like is jumping out to me is specifically what kind of the road that you were going down, Chris, a little bit was sometimes we have to eat our own crow a little bit, right? An instance just happened to me very recently on the book face, and if there was a particular thread that I started, I was very happy, I was very excited about something, so I put this thing out, and it just started this incredible political discussion. I will omit the specifics of this political discussion, but there was one person in particular who was becoming difficult to deal with. And in my own frustrations, I wrote a very long piece on this thread, comment. It was a very long comment, and I kind of ripped this guy a new one. I called him out, and I called him names, and I called myself out for calling him names. And I said, I'm sorry, but like, I'm at my wit's end. I know what I'm doing. I know this isn't kind. I know this isn't good of me. I know this isn't right, but I posted it anyway. A longtime viewer of the show, who lives in the UK, called me out on it. And he's like, Mike, you're not following your own guidelines. You end every show by telling people to speak kind words to each other, and you've just called yourself out for not speaking kind words. And I mean, that's not okay. You're not following your own advice. It doesn't matter what side of any particular argument you happen to fall on, whether it's political or benign, whatever that thing happens to be. We can always speak kind words to each other. We can always practice a little bit of kindness, no matter what your personal position is. And so, I, as much as I loved ripping this guy a new one, even probably to my discredit, I saved the comment in my phone, so I can feel validated by myself as I read through it, and no other eyes can see it. But yeah, it's one of those things of like, you're right. You're right. It is. I need to take this down because this is not doing anyone any favors. This is not creating any bridges. Like we need to, and, Chris, I agree with that same sentiment, as spoken by, the president-elect, which is, we need to take the temperature down. We need to take the temperature down across the board.
I looked up what I had to look up. I just wanted to make sure I got this information right, and I was having a brain fart. But there's this great film called Accidental. I can't even say the word. Accidental Courtesy. Are you familiar with this film? Well, it's gotta love them movies. It's a great documentary. It's about an activist and a musician named Daryl Davis, who's an African American pianist and musician, a session musician. He's played with everyone from Elvis Presley all the way to the Rolling Stones at some point in his career. But what he's really famous for is that he befriends members of the KKK and he convinces them to leave.
I've heard of this.
And the documentary
is
about...
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of this, yes.
Right. And the documentary is about his process and about why he started doing it. And what was really interesting is that he said he never befriends anyone in the KKK with the intention of getting them to leave. He befriends them because he feels like one of the reasons why they belong to that organization is that maybe they never had a quote unquote black friend. And he wants them to understand what it's like to have compassion showed to them by someone who they may fear and hate. And it just takes such a strength of character to be able to do that. And I found a lot of inspiration in that. And yeah, it feels great. It feels great to hit a bully. It really does. But, the thing I'll tell you is this, very briefly, is I had a friend of mine who was an ardent supporter of our current president. And we maintained our friendship through the last 4 years. And before the election, we had a very long conversation in which I sort of spelled out why I felt that it was not a good option to choose reelection for this individual. And during the course of the conversation, this isn't about this isn't about politics. I said during the course of the conversation, I said, well, is one of the things that attracts you to the president is his strength, and is he the person that you wish you could have been in high school? You know, this idea of this like kind of strong person who can bully their way through most situations. And he went, hell yeah. And I said, well, look, man, I knew you in high school. We were friends in high school. Instead of being the bully that you wish that you were, why don't you be the person that would have protected you at that age? Why don't you be the person who would have told you that it's okay to be the person that you are? Because I think he spent a lot of his life kind of hating himself and who he is. I said, why don't you be that person as opposed to trying to be and emulate the bully that you wish you could have been? And I said, because let me tell you something. I've been a bully in my life. I was bullied, and I have bullied people. A lot of people sometimes in the past would refer to my sense of humor as rather bully-ish. I really love roasts and roasting people. That kind of makes me laugh. I mean, you know, Mike, you've been on the receiving end of it. If I'm being mean to you, it's because I love you. But the thing is like, you have to remember that if that's the only thing anyone ever sees of you, then they never actually see that that's the joke. They just think that you're a jerk. And so I bring this up to say that, like, I had this conversation with my friend, and, you know, into the conversation, and I said, look, you know, regardless of who you choose in the election, we're going to be friends. I refuse to allow politics to get in the way of a friendship, especially someone who I know in real life. And I know this person to be a good human being. So the sort of darker fringes of Trump supporters, I said his name, but the darker fringes of the president's supporters, this person is not one of these people. And then like 3 days later, I get a text message from him saying, hey, I gave a lot of thought to what you said, and I gave a lot of thought to what we talked about. And I actually got this text on Election Day. And he's like, and I want you to know I voted for Biden. And I thought it was a really touching moment. And it reinforced to me the power of just being nice to someone and letting them talk. And he ranted and he yelled and he said a bunch of crazy crap that I was like, that's insane. And when he would rant and yell too much, I'd be like, hey, you don't have to scream at me. You know, we have 21st century phones. I can hear you. So it wasn't like we were just being like really like sweet to each other the entire time, but it reiterated the power of just compassion and kindness, and the fact that we have to talk to each other. We have no choice but to. You know, the social media and the thing that we're on now, and YouTube and the all these the sort of world that we live in now reinforces the false illusion that we're in this alone, when we're actually in this together, and we have to be together in this, or there will be no together anymore.
I mean,
there will be
you bring
no
up
us.
the concept of like social media and YouTube, and, you know, just reaching out and thinking that we're alone. And, you know, these are incredible tools. These are wonderful tools that we have at our disposal, but also look at how we use them. You know, sometimes maybe.
Well, we're bipedal hairless apes. You know, we're the people who you hand a human being a machine, a small machine that can create any food source in the world, and they're going to use it to beat someone to death with.
2001: Space Odyssey.
You know, that's
opening sequence.
Exactly. I'm glad that you.
It's gotta love them movies.
Of course. Well, but you didn't see Accidental Courtesy, man. So it's got to love some movies, not all movies.
Fair. I mean, even there, just lends to the subjectivity of film. Oh boy, so many. Like I keep going back to the Love Guru. I'm going on a horrible tangent right now. It has nothing to do with anything. Love Guru, horrible movie, just panned by audiences.
Anytime you start any sentence with "Let's talk about the Love Guru,"
See, I
it's
love
not going
that.
to be a good sentence.
That's the whole
but go
thing.
ahead.
I love that movie. I understand. I get it. People hate that movie. It's the movie that kind of ended Mike Myers' career. I love it. I think it's fun. And
Sure.
nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It is what it is. Same thing. Like there are movies that I can't like Citizen Kane. I do not think that is a good movie. But it's highly regarded as the best film of all time. Widely regarded even. Am I right? Am I wrong?
You are wrong for not liking Citizen Kane. And if you want, we can have a watch party, and I can walk you through why it's maybe not the best movie ever made, but it is certainly a
I
very, very
appreciate
good
it for
film.
what it is. It's just a movie I just don't care for. I don't like it. Anyway, but whole other.
I get it. I get it. Like I feel the same way. I feel the same way about The Exorcist. It comes on,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I get it.
I,
She's spitting up.
Ugh.
She's stabbing herself. She's spitting up
Gross.
stuff. Okay.
No
Don't care.
thanks. Anyway, we got way off topic. But yeah, today is Love and Kindness Day. So big question for you guys is today being Kindness Day, how did they put it? Celebrating World Kindness Day, yeah. What are you planning on doing today on A, my birthday, and B, World Kindness Day? What are some tips and tricks on how we can infuse maybe a little bit of kindness into the world? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, so with all of that down and out of the way, now we're going to go through and take a few questions, or rather comments. I think we only have 2 comments in the comment section, so let's go ahead and take those now.
Alive! It's alive! Alive!
You guys, we're gonna go through and take a few live comments. If anybody's out there in the comment world, and here's a window with Chris Booth that I have not resized. Again, you guys, this streaming software, it is the bane. It's the bane of my existence. That's my best bane.
Stop it! Don't do that.
That's the best bane I can do.
Welcome to Gotham.
Welcome to Gotta Love Them Movies. Great, awesome. So,
What if that was what if that was your entire show?
if I just
you
spoke
doing
like
me.
this the whole time, I think I actually need. It's better when I do it into a cup.
You sound like what the trees from The Wizard of Oz should sound like.
The Wicked Witch went that way. That's all I'm aspiring to be, Chris. That's all I'm aspiring to be. All right, and our first comment comes to us from longtime watcher Robbie Spratt. How you doing, Robbie Spratt? Good to see you, sir. He says, "Happy birthday, Mike." Well, thank you, Robbie. Thank you for joining us here on this, the day of my birth, and helping us to celebrate in style. As we move on down to our second and last comment of the day, from Leah Evans, mutual friend of both Mr. Chris Booth and myself. Leah says, "Happy birthday, Mike." Well, happy birthday to you as well, Leah. Yeah, thanks guys for just coming in, dropping in, saying a quick hello, a little happy birthday message. Very much appreciated. Chris Booth, thank you, sir.
Yes.
For joining us.
Thank you.
Today is not what one would consider to be a full day of movie news. We were stretching a little bit. Today was a bit of a stretch, but I think we had some fun. Came up with some interesting things to talk about. What do you think? What
I
say
agree.
you? Chris, like I said, thanks so much for joining us. This brings us to the end of the show. Chris, where can people find you online, and tell us about some of the projects that you have coming up in the near future?
Sure. You can find me on most anything at the Chris Booth. That is TheChrisBooth. I'm mostly active on Instagram these days. In terms of what I've got coming up, I help run a short form team through the Armory. So you can find them at thearmorycomedy@gmail.com or thearmorycomedy.com. And this short form team is called Game Nights.
Ooh,
With a K.
Look at
Yeah.
you.
And I know it's pretty exciting. And then I'm also on a character team called AP Calculus, which is a lot of fun. And then, like I said, I think earlier maybe we said this, or maybe we were talking before the show. I just finished a run of Inktober, which was really exciting. So please check that out. I'm very proud of it. I did Inktober, but I did all Batman villains, new takes on Batman villains, some of my favorite, some new Batman villains. And I'm also like 70,000 words into writing a book.
Whoa. Whoa.
It's crazy.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's my quarantine project.
That's fantastic.
Thanks. And don't know what will happen with it, but we'll see. And then yeah, that's all I got going on. I might be writing another radio play. I wrote a radio play for WJFF, which is a NPR affiliate last year. It was an updated version of War of the Worlds called War of the Worlds Mosaic. And we may be doing another update of a classic this holiday season.
Ooh.
But I can't, I'm contractually bound not to talk
so
about it.
So if I just happen to guess the holiday classic, you were obligated to be quiet and say nothing. So if I say A Christmas Carol, you can't respond to that. Or if I say Polar Express, you can't respond to that.
Well, I would never touch the classic horror film that is Polar Express.
You watch your mouth, mister. You watch your mouth. I will concede the animation to that is abysmal.
Polar Express is what they show the Gitmo prisoners to get information out of them. It's a form of torture.
You dirty son of a gun.
Hey, be kind.
It's kindness. Hey, it's my day. I get to decide how to be kind to people. Yeah, no, I will defend Polar Express. I will not defend the animation, but I defend that movie. I love that film. The animation is terrible, but I love that movie.
Look, I can't say anything because one of my favorite films of all time is Ice Pirates. So my ability to gauge good filmmaking is pretty off.
Well,
and if you've never seen Ice Pirates, do yourself a favor.
I know of it. I just have. Okay, so now we have 2 watch parties to do. Essentially, is what you're telling me. 2 watch parties. We're gonna do Citizen Kane and Ice Pirates. Chris.
Ice Pirates. Good double feature.
Chris, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of the conversation. Thank you for adding your expertise and for as well just like plugging your projects coming up. I'm very excited to see what this book is going to be and also to see more short form Through the Armory.
Yeah, should be fun. I'm excited to see what this book is. It took me like 30,000 words just to understand what I was writing.
Can you give us just a 1-sentence synopsis as to what it's about? 1 sentence.
A 1-sentence synopsis. Sure. And that 1-sentence synopsis is this. What if you found out that everything that you knew to be true was a lie? Would you choose to continue to live in that lie, or would you seek out a new life for yourself?
That's 2 sentences, but even more intriguing. Chris, thank you so much for being here. Hope to see you again, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. I hope to come back.
All right, you guys, if you like this video, please click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is exactly what Bill and Ted would want you to do on Kindness Day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Gotta Love Them Movies, your daily dose of movie news. I'm your host, Mr. Mike Brown. I'm here all the time. Again, you guys, we live in a weird, crazy world where everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, and sometimes those thoughts and opinions clash. So if you have an opportunity to infuse a little bit of kindness in the world, please take that opportunity. If you have an opportunity to speak kind words to each other, please take that opportunity. And as always, in the words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. I'll see you guys on Monday.